Hello everyone, my name is Meek, and before the video starts, I just want to make a disclaimer that I am in fact a Huntress main. I have a little over 1,000 hours of Dead by Daylight total, which is not a lot compared to a lot of other Dead by Daylight veterans, but I think it is enough to where I'm able to talk about, my main in the game. So hopefully, we just take everything in this video with a grain of salt because I'm not as experienced as a lot of other players, but this is only going to be coming from my personal experiences, plus a lot of things from the community as well. I asked a ton of Twitter posts, Reddit forums, and just things I've scouted around the internet for over the past few months. And this is what I've come up with. We're going to be talking about a lot of different topics in this video, and I hope you enjoy. All right, so what's going on with Huntress? What is wrong with Huntress? Why do people hate going against her? And what does she do? If you are new to Dead by Daylight, Huntress is a killer in Dead by Daylight. She is a ranged killer, one of the few ranged killers in the game outside of like Trickster, Deathslinger, Artist, Unknown, if you want to include them, and maybe a few others that I'm accidentally missing off the top of my head. But she's the only ranged killer that is basically cross map that can down or injure with only one projectile. Artist requires 2 projectiles. Trickster requires multiple, and Deathslinger can't shoot all the way across the map. So Huntress is a pretty strong killer on paper, being able to chase people down with a hatchet, hit them in the back, whip up another hatchet, hit them in the back again. They're out of the game, basically. That's not necessarily the case. Obviously, the game has things in place to where, Huntress can easily miss a hatchet or the survivors can dodge it, stuff like that. So it doesn't seem extremely broken on paper, but recently they buffed the Huntress. Huntress now has 7 hatchets base kit from her previous 5 hatchets. I don't know why they did this. Apparently, it was just like a giant band-aid. A lot of people were complaining about the locker placements on certain maps. I was personally complaining about Haddonfield and Gashaven mainly. There's nothing worse than being stuck out in the middle of Haddonfield Street with no lockers around, playing Huntress, having to leave, a really good chase to go reload, inside a second-story building and, having to basically start the entire chase over from a different loop. It's just not really fun. So the 7 hatchets was basically just supposed to be a band-aid saying, hey, we know the locker placements are bad, but instead of fixing the locker placements, we're just going to give you 2 extra hatchets. How's that sound? 2 hatchets don't seem like a lot. Okay, they get 2 extra hatchets in chase. That's not a big deal. Survivors they can just dodge the hatchets. It's not that big of a deal. But this is where we come into the issue, is that even when survivors dodge the hatchet can still hit majority of the time. I don't say majority, most of the time, I would say. A good portion of the time, the survivor still gets hit by a hatchet that technically should not have hit him. And this just because, well, hitboxes are a thing in Dead by Daylight that are pretty inconsistent, to say the least. Huntress hatchets are oval for some reason. They're oval or circular, whatever you want to describe this abomination over here, while survivors are basically the exact same thing. They look like Weeble Wobbles from those games or that toy that you played when you were little. For whatever reason, they just don't make the hitboxes actually reflect the character or the item the killer is holding. And that's just kind of sad on their part. And with funny hitboxes, you get funny hits. That's how it works. You get funny hitboxes, you get funny hits. And I'm going to try to show a few clips on stream where hitboxes or the hatchet doesn't line up with the hitbox at all. You get hit from around corners, above loops, below loops, through objects that just seems like it's borderline impossible to throw an actual real life hatchet through, or even if the hatchet had a correct hitbox, it would still look pretty funny. But it's still an issue for both sides as well. So survivors complain about, getting hit by hatchets, and Huntress mains complain about the hatchet not actually hitting, which I'm going to try to show you a few clips where, from my personal streams where I'll hit a survivor. It'll have the sound, of the hatchet hitting, but no registered was actually there, which this might just be a ping issue as well. With Dead by Daylight is one of those games where ping is a major part. It can save you, there's a difference between 20 ms and 55 ms. Which in most games, not a big deal. If you were playing Call of Duty or like Fortnite or anything like that, 20 ms to 50 ms is not really that big of a deal. But in Dead by Daylight, it is world changing. I mean, it is if you get hit through a window or through a pallet, it is literally life or death in the video game. That's how big of a difference ping can make in Dead by Daylight. Oh, but Mr. Huntress man, hitboxes have always, been an issue in the game since forever ago. Why are we just now bringing this up again? This is something that's been talked about for years now. Well, I mean, with that being said, yeah, hitboxes have been an issue in the game for a while, even before I started playing, and people have been complaining about it on the internet for over 3-4 years now. But I think it's getting worse with Unreal Engine 5, if I'm being honest. I think Unreal Engine 5, because the Huntress update came out with Unreal Engine 5, and I really do think those 2 extra hatchets and just the Unreal Engine itself played a big role in how the hitboxes are perceived. I think the hitboxes have gotten way, way worse. I mean, just look at this image right here. I mean, this is unacceptable from any game dev. If you want your player base to enjoy playing against a killer, this is just... What are we doing? But yeah, on a real note, we do all know that Huntress has been having, a major hitbox problem, major ping problem, basically since her release, all the way back when. And this is just nothing new, so I'm not going to try to, bore the entire video with it. It's something that we all know exists, and it happens, and there's simply nothing that we can do as players to change that. That is on behaviors and to, change that. So hopefully we can get a fix for it soon. Hopefully this video might bring a little bit of attention to it. Don't know. But yeah, I would like it changed personally as a Huntress main. I don't like downing survivors when I'm like, oh, that survivor should not have gone down there. And then I start feeling bad. So I hope something gets changed about it. But on to the next topic. All right, there's a few different categories I want to split Huntress mains up into. There's going to be 3 different categories. We got the M1 Huntress, the ones that run Pop, Pain Res, Nowhere to Hide, and Grim Embrace, for instance. 3 to 4 slowdown perks a game. They don't throw very many hatchets. Most likely new to Huntress, probably P1 to P5 in that sense. And, always probably running the default skin or, some of the cheaper cosmetics. These are the ones that I think a lot of people have issues going against. These are the ones that hold hatchets forever because they're new to the game, don't understand, exactly how to zone correctly or when to throw a hatchet or how to predict shots and everything like that. And I think this is where a lot of the Huntress Kate comes from, because they just kind of play in a certain way where it's like if they don't know what they're doing, so the survivors don't know what they're doing. And then you have group 2, which is going to be the more mediocre Huntress players. These are the ones that run a couple aura perks. They have maybe No Way Out, Barbecue, Lethal Pursuer, maybe Darkness Revealed or Nowhere to Hide or something like that, or Ultimate Weapon even. I've seen a few of that. Or they'll be running Iron Maiden or something. They know Huntress's kit. They know how to play her. They know the long-range shots. They know, they've seen the YouTube videos on how to play Huntress and stuff like that. And they're usually running the Baba Yaga skin or something along those lines. These are the P20s to P50, era of Huntress players. And these are pretty chill. These are the ones that are either extremely friendly or the ones that are just kind of farming for clips to put on their TikTok. And then you have the absolute Huntress gods. This is the top 1% of Huntress players. These are the ones that only go for hatchet shots no matter what. These are the ones that can just sit in the corner of the map and just throw 30 hatchets, and people are just going to start falling over like flies. And I think these are the fun ones to go against personally. These are the ones that are fun and chase because they're easier to mind game because they want that hatchet hit. They want that hatchet hit. It's like playing against an M1 Billy versus an M2 Billy. M2 Billy is always going to beat M1 Billy in the fun factor. So I really think Huntress should be played that way, where you play him like Billy, where every chance you get, you should M2. All right, so we all know Huntress also got a buff where she got 2 extra hatchets added to her kit. This was a band-aid. I think I already talked about it, but this is basically a band-aid the behavior did where lockers were not spawning in, and this locker placements were awful on a lot of maps, so they gave her 2 extra hatchets. And with those 2 extra hatchets, on paper, don't seem like a big deal. But it is actually insane how big of a deal it is when it comes to the accuracy needed to down a survivor. So with 5 hatchets, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It takes 2 hatchets to down a survivor. You need a 40% accuracy if you want to down that survivor. Which 40% is still not a very high number, or it's a not a high number. You don't have to waste half your hatchets to down a survivor. But the survivors only have to dodge 3 hatchets, or 4 technically if they want to survive. So they need to dodge 4 hatchets. That's not awful, especially if they have a really good map setup or a decently okay Huntress, I guess. Like, it's very possible to dodge 4 hatchets. They've been doing it for years. But when they added the 2 extra hatchets, that 40% went down to 28.5%. They have to dodge 5 hatchets total now instead of 4. Which is, it's not like, once again, it's just dodging 1 more hatchet. But they dodge 5 and still go down. So technically they need to dodge 6 hatchets in order to, like, get hit once. She wastes 5 more hatchets, and then you run off unscathed. Like, that's insane. And this is even including like reloading mid chase as well, because Huntress also recently got a buff where she reloads a little bit faster. And it's just something I can't comprehend. Like, you only need a 28.5% accuracy to down a survivor with like 7 hatchets in your inventory. That just, like, the skill disparity from like good Huntress players is just, and like to bad ones, it's there's no, I don't know how to put it, but it basically made Huntress easier for a lot of new players. You only need a 30% accuracy to down a survivor. Like, in what video game does a 30% accuracy reward you in? That's what I'm trying to get at. Is like 40% is already kind of cutting it. Like, 40% is still very, very low for like, a killer that has this much down potential. But 30% is just outlandishly low accuracy rate. It's pathetic, really. And that's not even the worst part, because she has 7 hatchets. She can down 3 survivors if she has an 86% accuracy rating, which this is where those good Huntress players come into play. Is like these mediocre, like that group 2 to group 3 Huntress mains that I was talking about earlier, they will abuse these hatchets. You need a 57% accuracy rate to down 2 survivors. That's still very possible. You have to hit a little bit over half your hatchets, which is very possible, especially if they're caught out or trying to, they get caught out trying to go for a flashy save or a pallet save or anything like that. It's very, very possible. And then an 86% for 3 survivors. You don't have to reload once, and you get down 3 survivors. That is just, it's not healthy, in my opinion. It's not healthy. Like, could you imagine, you go down on pallet at Shack, right? And, the Huntress player knows that someone's going to come for the save. So they act like they're picking up. They fake the pickup, turn around, and boom, there's your buddy. He gets 2 tapped by 2 hatchets. And so now you got 1 person on pallet, 1 person out in the middle of the field. The person on pallet gets hooked. Huntress goes to the person in the field, sees somebody with a flashlight. Boom. They're 2 tapped as well. That's like 3 people out of commission without even needing to reload. It's insane that this is allowed. And I don't like it. And just for reference, by the way, for 2 downs with 5 hatchets, it's an 80%. If you're not good at math, it's just, you need 4 hatchets to down 2 people with 5 hatchets or whatever. That makes, you need 4 hatchets to down 2 people. And that provides 1 hatchet left over if there was only 5 hatchets in the game. So it's just like, it just doesn't make sense numbers wise why they would do this. Like, it just, I'm trying to put my finger on it, but it just takes a lot of the skill expression away from like good Huntress players, because that's what made good Huntress players good, is being able to get these 2 to 4, like these 2 downs, or, like that 1 down with, 5 hatchets, or those 2 downs with 5 hatchets, and just like having 1 hatchet left over. Like that's where the skill came from. But now you're able to down 2 people and still have 3 hatchets left over. If you're like, that top 1% or like that top 10% of Huntress mains. It's insane. And I personally don't like it. And to make matters worse, she throws them hella fast as well. She has 2 add-ons that makes it to where her cooldown to throwing hatchets is like cut in half by almost 30%. She has Oak Haft, which negates 20% of the cooldown. And then she has Bandage Haft which are both add-ons. One's a yellow add-on and one is a brown add-on, which negates 10%. So she can have a 30% cooldown reduction as well, meaning that if you're trying to go for a trade in in-game, your entire team is just gonna fall if this Huntress is accurate. You know, if like it's near impossible to like get a decent chase if you're caught out. And I think that's where an issue a lot of the Survivor mains have is just they're always caught out in these Huntresses that run the double oak or the double cooldown add-ons or the the Okaft Bambushka and stuff like that. And it's just like it's like machine gun Huntress, and it's just not. There's no counterplay to it in that sense. But at the same time, it's kind of like a skill issue because the Survivor was caught out and they should have known better and know the Huntress capabilities. But it still seems extremely unhealthy for the game, though. I also apologize about that little rant I just did there. But basically, what I'm trying to say is the 7 hatchets, I think, was one of the biggest mistakes behavior ever did to Huntress. It really did nothing, for the 5% Huntress mains or like the top 10% of Huntress mains. It really did nothing for them. All it did was make bad Huntresses mediocre and good Huntresses gods. That's all it did. Alright, so with all that ranting out of the way, we're going to get to the part of how I personally would fix Huntress. And a lot of it fixing is just reverting a lot of the things that they did to her. Change her back to 5 hatchets. I love the 7 hatchets as a Huntress main. I love the 7 hatchets because I'm able to throw 2 or 3 hatchets early with Lethal Pursuer and then just go to locker, reload, and you're right back into the fight with 7 hatchets. It's really, really nice to have 7 hatchets. Do not get me wrong. But like I said, it just takes away a lot of the skill expression that a lot of Huntress mains worked years on building for themselves. So give her 5 hatchets base kit again, and revert the add-on changes. Sorry, I just punched my mic. And revert the add-on changes. Make everything basically what it was before. You can probably keep the Bambushka and stuff like that how it is because I want that buff to stay. That buff is really nice. It's very healthy for the game and everything like that. If they do want to get spicy with it and actually give Huntress some quality of life updates to make her easier in chase and make her like the locker situation fixed, give her a 10% faster reload again. They recently did like buff her reload speed and just make it a little bit faster. Make it a little bit faster, get her back into the fight a little bit faster, and make her locker aura rating increase by 15 meters. I know that sounds like a lot, but there's no like a lot of the maps have empty dead zones with no lockers, which I'm going to try to find some right now. I'm going to try to post some here. Where if you're looping a certain tile, there is not a locker within, a while of you. And you have to actually walk around before you see the hatchet auras appear. So I think if they just increase the locker detection range by 8 meters, 8 to 15 meters, something like that, make it a little bit easier for newer Huntress players to learn where the lockers are usually at and stuff like that so they don't run into like dead zones and, oh, I'm looping this, Survivor and I don't have hatchets and don't know where a locker is. So I think that might be a little bit of a good change and healthy change as well because it won't really affect the Survivor gameplay at all, but it will make it simply easier for the Huntress to find lockers. And if you really want to get extremely spicy with it, make her Eerie add-on the Soldier's Poutine. I think that's how it's spelt or it's pronounced. I actually don't know how to pronounce it. Make that base kit. This is extremely, extremely spicy, like I said. But if she runs out of hatchets, make her a 4.6 killer. I mean, if you really do want to give a quality of life change, I think that would be it's a little bit on the, the more broken end of a buff. But I definitely think as of now, nobody ever uses it. I don't think it's a good add-on, especially an Eerie add-on. It's just not worth it in my opinion. So why not just make it base kit and change the add-on to something else? Make it, a more unique or something. Maybe make it to where you can carry 5 extra hatchets instead of the 3 from the leather loop or the infantry belt. Sorry. But I definitely think that might be a little bit of a, like I said, that's more on the spicy end of the change that I would like. But if they really do want to do quality of life stuff, I think this is the way they should go about it. Not just, taking away all of her skill expression and giving her more hatchets. But overall, I think Huntress is in an interesting state between a surge of new Huntress players wanting to learn her, and not quote unquote playing her correctly, because you know a lot of her perks that she runs, like you can see on the screen now, are locked behind, you know, killers and paid killers even. So you know they don't have the opportunity to play her quote unquote correctly. You know, a lot of proxy camping and stuff like that. And then you have the good Huntress players that benefit from the changes. So you have, you know, like I said, the bad players become mediocre and the good players become gods. I think that's the simplest way to put it. But yeah, she just seems like an unfun killer to go against for the majority of the player base, and I would like to, you know, have that change. I like, you know, I like when people come into my stream and say like, "Wow, you're a good Huntress," but now it just seems like everybody just DCs against Huntress now, and it's really upsetting to see. But yeah, that's my entire hot take on the situation. Once again, please take all this info with a grain of salt, because I am not the most experienced Dead by Daylight player in the world. But I do hope you enjoyed the video, and take care.